Okay, now that we have this piece of metal that we just drilled our holes in, we did 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we went and we learned about, you already drilled your holes for the 6, 7, 8, and 9. It's now time to cut those. Now let's quickly talk about cutting the insides of pieces. So we drill. Now, when we do this, you actually want to cut on the inside of this line. You want to cut on this inside. You don't want to cut on the outside, because if this shape is the exact size that you want, if this shape right here is the exact size that you want, if you cut on the outside of the line, it'll be too big. If you cut on the inside, it may be a little small, but you can always file to it. So when you're cutting out shapes like this, you always cut them a little small, or on the inside of this line. Now, if we're cutting a design on an edge, we would cut it. You always cut the design smaller so that you can file up to that design. Okay, so we're gonna still apply the principles that we learned from the first video when we're gonna move the metal, not the blade. When we're turning the metal or trying to find different when we're turning it in different shapes. You're gonna lubricate using the beeswax, and you are going to not push the blade, but you're gonna let the blade do the cutting. So let me show you how to attach this piece now. So we have our blade, and I'm just gonna rest it in my gut, and so I have my free hands. I'm gonna adjust this bottom wing nut, and when I adjust it, I now have this blade. So I will then fish the blade through the hole that I want. You see, now I want the design facing up, and I'll drag it all the way to the top, so it's supported by this area. Okay, so it's supported here. I will then come back, like I set my blade up before, make sure it's the teeth are going down and out. I lean a little bit in. I tighten the wing bolt. Make sure it's tight. I can then lubricate, and I will start cutting. Now, as you're cutting, you want to, once again, reminder, you want to make sure that you're not cutting into the wood. So when you cut, you want it to be, your metal to be spanning these two areas here. So right in the middle. Feet securely down, and you'll go to the edge and start cutting, start going. It cuts, and there's my piece, and there is my cutout. So I'll then do what I did before. I'll drag my blade all the way, or my piece of metal all the way to the end. I'll loosen my wing bolt, slide the blade off, or the piece off, and go to 7. Now I'll slide it all the way down. And then I will start cutting again. Now once again at the very end, long strokes. And there's my piece. Do what I did before. Slide it all the way down. Loosen it. Put it through the 8. And tighten it. Now, you guys need to use the beeswax. I'm finding that as I go around these corners, if I don't have beeswax on it, it becomes very difficult. So you always want to add the lubricant, that beeswax, as often as possible. As I'm coming up at the end, long, slow strokes, and it breaks. And there's my star. And now I'm on to number 9. So once again, I loosen it, put the new one up, put it in the new hole. And I'm good. Notice how many times I lubricated, or I put wax on that blade, on quite a bit, just to make sure that it's clean and easy. You don't want to, once again, you don't want to force the blade. You want it to be nice and smooth, and so the wax does that. Okay? Now at the end, I'm going to go slow strokes. And there we go. And now you are done. So I take out my blade, and there's the piece. Now let's talk about a few more things before the end of the video. If, for some reason, your blade breaks, and I'm just going to break it, just so that to show you. So it broke right here. Your blade is not now useless. All you have to do is adjust the height. So what you'll do, you'll loosen this and slide the neck up, once again from that first video, until it's about a quarter into that piece of metal. I'll tighten that wing bolt, so now it's tight. I will loosen this, and if it breaks, there might be a small piece in there, so you'll fish that out. I can then do what I did before, lean up against it, and now I have the blade again. And you can do that as many times as that you need to use the blade. Now, I only used one blade in this whole piece. If you are good, if you're really good, you'll only use one blade. But accidents happen. Noticed how many times I used the wax. So, let's review. On 1, straight through, you let the saw do the cutting, and you cut on the downstroke. 2, you move through the curves, but you're moving the metal, right? You're moving the metal and keeping the saw blade straight. 3, you're cutting these edges, and when you get to that corner, you're just moving the saw blade up and down, and you're slowly turning the metal to create a hole. 4 and 5 are practice. 6, we drill the holes, and then you cut on the inside of the metal. You always want to leave it a little bit bigger so that you can then file to the exact size that you need. Lubricate your blade with beeswax as much as you need to, so that it flows easily and it doesn't catch. Okay, so that is sawing practice. That's how to saw using a jeweler's saw.